Bona tarda a tothom.
Good evening to one and all. Thank you very much for being with us today on this webinar on agroecology at school. Very often when we talk about school agroecology, we always think about vegetable gardens. However, today, this will just be the starting point of a broader system, which is the food system at the school, that it includes the production, transformation, and consumption of food. We're going to be looking at this field as a field for education that promotes the change of the system based on the criteria of food sovereignty and sustainability. Today, we'll also hear about actual experiences that are being developed today at school, and we'll also be looking at different guidelines that are aligned with these principles. We are very, very happy to be here with you today and to have with us Montse Escutia, who is an agriculture engineer and who is head of the development department at the Vida Sana organization. We will also have Germán Llerena, who's a professor at the Autonomous University of Barcelona, and they are both benchmarks in this area. And we also have today Luciana Lerho from Germany, and she is a consultant at the European Climate Initiative program. And this program finances the Climate Action to the Table program. And Fundesplai is one of its partners, together with other entities from Greece and Slovenia. And today's conference takes place within the EUKI program, and Luciana will give us a brief introduction about this initiative before we give the floor to the presentations by Montse and Germán. Luciana will do her presentation in English, so you can use the simultaneous interpretation icon at the bottom of your screen, and you can also ask questions. There's a Q&A icon as well in Zoom, so that you can ask questions during the presentations. Luciana, the floor is yours.
Whenever you are ready, please, you can share with us your presentation, please.
Yes, hello, good evening to all of you. Will my presentation be shared? Yes, perfect, great. All right, then with my clicker and then I can start. Yes, good evening to all of you from Berlin. I'm very happy to be here and get the chance to briefly introduce to you the European Climate Initiative, or short, EUKI. I am Luciana Lerho. I'm a technical advisor at the EUKI Secretariat in Berlin, and I am also supervising the Climate Action to the Table EUKI project. And for those who don't know EUKI yet, the European Climate Initiative is an initiative of the German Federal Ministry for Economic Affairs and Climate Action to strengthen the cooperation in the EU in the further development and implementation of its ambitious climate policy. And through EUKI, climate actors can learn from each other. The initiative supports the inner European dialogue, the exchange of good practices, awareness raising, and knowledge transfer. And EUKI connects climate actors across Europe since 2017. I just very briefly want to introduce to you the objectives of the European Climate Initiative, which is firstly, as I already said, the overarching goal to support the path towards climate neutrality in Europe by advancing the green transformation through climate action and collaboration across Europe. Then the strengthening of the civil society's role in climate action at the local, at the regional, and also at the national level, as well as trans-border European cooperation. And then last but not least, creating networks and fostering the exchange of good practices. So exactly what we are doing here tonight. To give you an overview about how big the EUKI is, I have some numbers here for you. So we are currently working with 364 organizations in 179 projects all around Europe in 31 countries, with a funding volume of, I think, even more than 80 million euro. And one of these projects is the ClimateActionToTheTable project. And as this, of course, was more now from the theoretical side of view, I also have a bit more practical inputs. I have two projects that I want to introduce you to, because I think they might be of interest for you. Both of them are already successfully completed, but nevertheless, I wanted to briefly give you an overview about those two projects. And the first one is the CLICAS project, Climate Friendly Kitchen in Schools. It was implemented by the Institute for Future Studies and Technology Assessment. And the project transferred the results of the predecessor project, which was implemented in Germany with the same name, to Polish conditions and eating habits. And to achieve this, the CLICAS project adapted educational materials and evaluated typical meals and ingredients according to their climate impact. And the main methods of transferring the adapted project from Germany to Poland was through the train the trainer seminars. And in these different training courses, Polish personnel and kitchen management or managers were taught how to apply the methods and principles that were developed by the project. And the courses addressed three specific areas. First, the variation of ingredients, then the kitchen technology and user behavior, but also organizational measures. And then we have the second project. You can also find more information about the project on our website. I also linked it here. I'm happy to share the presentation with you afterwards. And then you can just click on the link. The second project is the follow-up project. It's called CLICAS Network. And here the project worked in Croatia and Estonia to provide kitchen managers, school directors, municipal representatives with the necessary know-how, how to make catering in schools more sustainable. And it did so by firstly analyzing the kitchen's current climate efficiency. And this was then based on this, they offered consultation for improvement. And on top of it, they supported the individual schools with practical measures, such, for example, the development of regionally appropriate climate-friendly dishes, and also training for kitchen chefs. And then, most importantly, they also developed a organizational framework for all issues concerning the school catering's climate friendliness. And then in different workshops, the projects brought together participants to share expertise and to share best practices on the use of sustainable ingredients and the exchange of outdated equipment, for example. And both projects were quite successful. And as I said, they're already the implementation already ended. But in Poland, Croatia, and Estonia, they achieved quite a wide reach for climate-friendly school canteens. And they also published a handbook, which is also linked here. So far, it is not available in English yet, but I have reached out to them to ask if they also will publish the handbook in English soon. This might be of interest for you. The handbook shows how to implement climate-friendly kitchens in schools, and it can be used by schools, by educators, or by the administrative staff to make the menus in the schools more climate-friendly and at the same time to reduce the energy output. Yes, these two were the projects I hope are interesting for you. Of course, we at EUKI work with a lot of different projects. Not all are specifically linked to the topic of today's event, but I hope it was a bit interesting, and I wish you a successful continuation of today.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Luciana, for this brief but insightful presentation about the program, and also the inspiring experience of the CLIKIS project in Poland, Croatia, and also in Estonia. So let's move on to our next panelist.
We will now give the floor to Germán. Germán, the floor is yours. Hello, good evening. Thank you very much for inviting me here today. I'd like to thank Fundesplai, and it's a pleasure to share this session with all the other panelists. And at the Autonomous University of Barcelona and at the Sant Cugat Town Council, and also with the publishing house Poland, we would like to explain, I would like to explain more about environmental education, because environmental education can be very simplistic and very straightforward. You have a problem and you look for a solution. This is something we see everywhere, although we are convinced that there is the possibility of having a different type of education, but very often we see that every time there is a problem, a solution is found, and that's how we move forward. This is what's happening with meat. We know that there is a major environmental problem that's linked to meat. There is an important study concerning this matter. So what happens is that we think that the problem is to eat meat and the solution is to become vegetarians. And this is what the population thinks. This is what our students and pupils think. And we have to understand that this is just a quick solution to a problem. But it's important to understand that very often the problems are complex, and when we think about environmental education, we should be looking at the complex system of the environment. We should also think about political aspects. We should think about environmental justice. We should also bear in mind economic and financial aspects. We know how capitalism is at the core of many of these problems. So it's important when referring to environmental education to take into account all these different aspects of this complex system. This is something that we can do at school, but we can do this in an easy way at school, and we can do this through our vegetable gardens at school. And the main idea here is to understand how complex the system is. So we use our school gardens, our school vegetable gardens, and our school kitchens to understand understand this more complex system. It's important to look at the different production areas within the school. Where is the production? Because there's energy, for example, and we're just consuming the energy. And with the garden, with the vegetable garden at school, we can teach the concept of production so that we can understand, our students can understand the whole system. And sometimes, however, when we leave the classroom, we may feel uncomfortable, but we have to learn to produce those vegetables, but also to cook them. We have to be in the kitchen, and then we have to think about the consumption in the school canteen. There are many different moments of consumption, and we also have to think about the community, about stalls at markets, etc. And we have to remember that there are many stakeholders involved. We have the farmers, we have the chefs. At each school, you have a school canteen where you have people working and cooking, and very often their conditions are not the best labor conditions, and it's important to understand what their labor conditions are, because very often they may reject changes, and so we need to understand each area, each situation, and the situation of each stakeholder to be able to implement the changes. Always understanding that we're talking about a complex system within the school where everybody should be involved, the teachers, the managers, and so on. And this is what we explain in this book that we published in 2017, and you can download it for free from this link. And it's a book by the publishing house of Olen, and it's one of a series. And our idea is to continue with this series. And we have this other book as well that is very much focused on today's topic. There's this book on traditional farmers in Catalonia. These are farmers that are working for the large market, and they don't have a direct contact with the population because the market is the intermediary, and that's why some things happen. However, we do have the organic farms that do have this direct contact with the population, and this is very interesting for the school. And in this regard, we believe that farmers could be part of the work done at school, i.e. to create partnerships with farmers through different projects. There are many different projects available. And here in this book, we explain different stories of different farmers, and that can be used at school. For example, there is a specific school for shepherds in Catalonia, and that is absolutely beautiful. There are young people who are now training to become shepherds. And this is absolutely marvelous. And it's also amazing for many people who think, how does someone want to work with cattle in the mountains where there's no mobile phone signal. And then there are other proposals of organic farming, organic agriculture that is based on different designs, and it's developed in three ways. They work with paper designs, and this can be very appealing for our students so that they understand how a field is studied to reach these objectives. And in my village, in Sant Cugat, we have also an example of this organic farming systems. This is an urban vegetable garden, and half of the field is for an eatable forest. That's how they're called in forestry. And this is very interesting because we work with different levels of production, different levels of farming, and this broadens our view of a vegetable garden, and it helps establish a link with a forest. Maybe some of you know the Charculan group that works with plants that are very often forgotten, and to go with them into the forest is amazing because they show you all the different plants and how they were used traditionally. And there are thousands of opportunities in just a small space, at spaces that we have very nearby, but that we never look at from this perspective of learning from these plants and using these plants for cooking. We also have a group of people devoted to making bread. These are stories that appear in the book. These are very interesting stories that can become very important opportunities to make bread, to bake bread in a traditional way, because in that way we understand also a different production process. And also in this book, you will find many other experiences that are great opportunities. And we have a group that's called L'Ortiga, where we work with children. And from these experiences, there are different opportunities that can be developed at schools to develop different programs with children. And we're working with 13 schools in Sant Cugat, and they have contacted us through Fundesplai, and we are now developing this program in partnership together with the farmers. And in this way, the schools receive organic vegetables, for example, potatoes, onions, and carrots. And this gives us many opportunities, as I said before. For example, we were thinking about 360-degree approach, that is to look further beyond the school hours, because a lot of things related with food take place outside the school. And it's worth sitting at a table with the catering people, the teachers, the farmers, the city council, and the school. And although you don't always meet all your goals, you are able to create, for example, new routes for children that start working at the classroom with the question, what is it that we eat? So from the classroom, they go to the kitchen, and then from the kitchen, they go to the farm. From the farm, they go to the vegetable gardens, and the children can also plant some vegetables and collect those vegetables and then cook them and eat them at school. And in this way, they have the possibility of understanding the whole cycle of food. However, the school kitchen needs more vegetables than what the children bring. And then the children say, oh, well, but you have to go to the farm because in the farm they have more vegetables. And in this way, everybody is involved. And this is a very interesting project for children at school. Another example that I believe is very interesting has to do with eating healthy. Montse knows that I love this project. She's also aware of many other projects that are also very important and interesting. And in this case, we have an organic food cooperative. So that means that the families have access to organic food within the school. So these are solutions that are usually not available within the schools, but now with these programs, we can help with social change. So the school becomes a driver for change. Another example is that of the school kitchens that are used as community kitchens for farmers when they have a surplus of any type of product, then they can make different types of preserves, vegetable preserves, for example, and in this way you avoid wasting food, because in the past we've seen how we've been losing these traditions. We've been losing the traditional farming systems, and now the idea is to recover these traditions, and we use these school kitchens for that. At 4 o'clock in the afternoon, once the kitchen is already done with the school lunches, then the kitchen can be open to people who need large spaces to make vegetable preserves or biscuits, bread, or whatever. And this means working in community with the family. And the vegetable gardens at school, and here we see this one from a school in La Aldea, in the Tarragona province. This is a rural area. La Aldea is a small rural village, and it's interesting for children because they can understand the difference between an organic vegetable garden and an industrial type of vegetable production, which is one of the main sources of income in the village. So here we have this new debate within one location between the different types of farming available. In the book that we publish, we have this other example from a school at Prats de Lluçanès where they created a shed based on bioconstruction that is environmentally friendly. And the design was created together with the school. And here we have another example that was sent to me by a student from Colombia. These are the projects. You have the links here to contact them. The links have been sent by this Colombian student, Juan Sebastián Rojas. And in this way, we can learn from interesting experiences in other parts of the world. So a vegetable garden is a starting point to understand a more complex system so that we can follow the whole route of food. So in this way, we can teach our children the food system, and we can involve farmers and many other agents. And in this way, we can provide a better environmental education. So that's what I wanted to explain. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you very much, Germán. The message is very clear. Montse, the floor is yours. And if there are any questions, please write them on the chat. Thank you. Good evening. Thank you very much. I would like to thank Fundesplai for inviting me today to this session. And following what Germán has just explained, I have prepared this presentation for you. I started working with school gardens, and I provide training to schools that have their own vegetable gardens, but very often it's difficult to move forward or to develop the project further. And very often the vegetable garden just becomes a place where we plant some seeds and we collect some plants. However, we should use vegetable gardens at schools to introduce more complex concepts. This is something that is requested from society in general, and sustainable food allows us to work in a broader manner, all these aspects. Sustainable food is not at all easy to define because it's a very long chain from the production of food until the food reaches the plate, and it covers many different concepts. I have here the ones that I consider key. Firstly, we have the production, and at our association, we're always thinking about organic production. Then extensive farming and fishing.
Perquè en països com, sobretot aquí a Espanya, doncs encara la pesca
and livestock farming and fishing, for example, is very important for a healthy diet. And there are other concepts such as seasonal food, sustainable and healthy diet, food safe,
la seguretat alimentària
food security.
rics, diguéssim, del primer
because
món, on el
we
problema que
see
tenim,
that this is a concept that varies depending on the part of the world you live in.
És un concepte que engloba bàsicament doncs, que aquests aliments...
And it's very important when referring to food security to have food that has no toxic residues. And in poorer countries, when we talk about food security, however, we're referring mainly to the access to food. Very often we find examples of poor families or schools in marginal areas where the school vegetable garden is a way of providing food to the families. And when we are referring to food safety and food security, we are referring both to the access to food and to safe products. Sustainable food is also linked to the concept of avoiding food waste. This is on the agenda of many different policies, and in the European Union, there are new regulations regarding food waste. Another concept is that of reducing waste and food sovereignty, that is the right to decide how food is produced within the food system. This is a more political type of concept. When we refer to environmental education at school, we can also touch upon the concept of food sovereignty. Additionally, we have the concept of a fair trade in food like coffee or chocolate, that are foods that come from faraway countries. And of course, those farmers have the right to charge a fair price for their products. And we also refer to local consumption. So this concept of sustainable food includes many different concepts, and each and every one of them can be developed in the classroom and in school in general. And there are many entities that are working on this. There are many educational proposals available, and that make our work easier. Now I will take each one of these concepts and I will give you examples of tools that we use. For organic production, there's an album that has been produced by the Agriculture Department for the Organic Week. The Organic Week promotes organic production and organic food, and it takes place in October, and there are many activities organized. One of them is an award, and then we also have the Organic Week at schools, and we have many different resources. One of them is this interactive album that is available both in Catalan and in English. What's interesting is to be able to see the examples of two families. One is a farmer's family and the other family has a livestock farm, and you can see the whole process of production and transformation and consumption. This is a very useful tool to introduce these concepts in the classroom so that students can understand the concept of organic production and organic agriculture. In the case of organic, extensive livestock farming, we have different types of production, and it's more difficult to develop this topic in schools, although some schools do have chickens, for example, and there's this school, the Finestra school, that won 2 years ago a prize for their project on organic livestock farming, where they would meet the farmers and follow the whole transformation process of their products. And I wanted to show you a video, but we are short for time. So instead of that, as this project, as I said before, did receive a prize, then you can access our website and the website of the Organic Week, and there you will see the projects that were awarded, and there you will find all the videos. So you can see how the whole process went, how they produced cheese and wool at school, and how this can be done at different levels at school. This is another example of a material created by the Christensen Foundation that has been published by Grain, a foundation in Barcelona, where organic production is compared to industrial production from the soil to the sun. So this is a poster that's also available in Spanish and in English, and it's very interesting to see in just one image how both systems can be compared. And we shouldn't forget fishing. I do think that the activities offered by MSC, the Marine Stewardship Council, on their website, they have an educational section, and they offer very interesting activities for primary education and for secondary education. And the activities for secondary education are based on interviews to a girl who is the daughter of many generations of fishermen. Now, this is another interesting material. It's in Spanish and it's in Catalan, and it's a game. You have to compare two images that may seem very similar, but there are some differences. And then you have the solutions page. And based on these images and on the comparison of these images, then you can start working on different matters. This is something you can use in the schoolroom to develop different projects. Local consumption is a concept that's very often developed in many schools that have their own vegetable garden, and then they sell their produce at the local market. And the families are also involved, and it's interesting to work along these lines. And there are other schools. For example, this is a secondary school in El Prat, it's Las Salinas school that sells their produce. And at the El Candari school in Caldas de Montbui, they visited an organic shop with organic products so that it was possible to explain to the students in the shop how organic food is produced and how organic food is more sustainable. Additionally, we have calendars, seasonal calendars. The problem today is that you find all types of food throughout the whole year, but it's important to teach our students that you have seasonal foods, and it's important to understand the seasonality of food. And in this way, children can understand the concept better. This is a very interesting proposal by the organization Justicia Alimentaria, Food Justice. And here we explain how there is a season for, each season has its own vegetables and fruit and fish and even meat. And with this calendar, we have the possibility of printing it and working it in the school classroom. Another aspect refers to the food trade. And this working group, Aliment Action, has developed a website with many materials, and one of them is this resource, and all the resources are used in primary school and secondary school and also in vocational training. And here you can obtain many ideas regarding collaborative agriculture, and in this way students can understand which are the challenges of organic agriculture cooperatives. Here we see an example of a high school in Alcanar in the province of Tarragona, and they created their own cooperative with their own logo and name. And in the case of fair trade, it's important to be able to develop as well this concept at school. This is one of the materials that can be used. It has been created by different associations. And here, for example, they're comparing what it means to buy from the large corporations or to buy through fair trade. This is very interesting, as I say. From my point of view, although it's been around for many years, it hasn't been used enough because this is a very complete guide with different activities for fair trade in at different levels of school, for primary and secondary school. And in terms of food safety, we are referring to whether the food we eat is safe. For example, GMOs are very interesting as a concept. Here we have a video that is very good to work with at school. It's a fun video to explain well what is food safety. This video is in Spanish. And then we have this story based on GMOs. This is, as we know, a complex topic to explain. So it's wonderful to have this support material. And this story was published in Valencia by Engineers Without Frontiers, and it's available in Catalan. It's also important to focus on the topic of waste, how to reduce waste, because in the food industry, very often there are many types of packaging used that are not necessary. And here we have an example from the Empordà area, and this is based on some activities that were promoted in the north of Europe, and it was about running. So you run and you pick up the waste you find on your way. And many of the parts of waste that were found were parts of packaging, food packaging. And the Catalan Waste Agency is aligned with the Let's Clean Up Europe campaign from the European Union, and it includes many different challenges for natural spaces. And there's an app for the mobile phone to classify waste. And then a ranking can be established of all the waste that has been found. Food waste is a huge challenge, and I would recommend you to look into the proposal of Fundesplai with training and resources and support activities for schools and families. In the area of sustainable and healthy diets, it's important to have a vegetable garden at school, because this means that children tend to eat then more healthy products. And of course, it's better to eat fruit and vegetables that come from your own organic garden, so that we can help explain the environment better to children. So vegetable gardens at schools are a wonderful environmental tool. There are many different initiatives available. There are many different ways of working at school through recipes and classifying the best foods. Here we have some images of recipes cooked at school from different cultures and different places. And this is a video that I won't show you now from the Torrelodones school, and the fifth graders created a story that's called The Vegetable War and the Lost Tomato. I do recommend you to watch this video because it's a very simple way of dealing with all these topics related to food. I will end now because I know that we don't have more time available. But I'd just like to say that there are many entities with resources available that you can find through Fundesplai and also through our association, through Vida Sana. You can find all these resources there. And that's all. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you very much, both Montse and Germán. And Montse, you have shown us some very interesting resources. Thank you very much, both, for giving us this overview of actual experiences in different schools. And we've also been able to see how many resources, interesting resources, are available online. We have 4 minutes left. We have some questions and remarks. I think that these questions are addressed to both of you. One of the questions is whether the families can cooperate with the school so that they can develop this food system and food education even broader. So what would be the role of families? How can the families help the schools develop even further this concept? Well, in fact, I answered that question on the chat. Maybe Montse can give us her own reply. Yes, you're right. Oh, thank you. That's true. That's wonderful. So that everybody can read the questions. So, Montse, maybe you can share with us this role of families. Yes, I agree with Germán. And families have a great role to play because they can be talking to the teachers, and sometimes teachers don't have enough time or support, but if they have the support of the family association, that's wonderful. In our association, we offer the possibility of organizing presentations, even online, about sustainable food. And families, therefore, can be requesting from the school these presentations, and also financial support can be provided by the families, because the family association can help with their own financial resources. We very often receive calls from family associations from different schools, and they contact us so that we can work with the schools. For example, there's now this award that is organized for schools. So it's support. That's what they can give, support.
Vale, fantàstic. Montse, si vols, després tu pots posar al chat.
Montse, maybe you can write on the chat this award you just mentioned, and with this we will end now. There are different remarks on the chat from Germán providing additional information. We hope that you have enjoyed all the presentations. Thank you for your participation. And we hope that your book, Germán, will be published soon. And we'll see you soon. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Goodbye. Thank you. Thank you. Goodbye.
Moltes gràcies. Adéu.